Julie Gunlock, joining us of the Independent Women's Forum. Thank you so much for joining us in studio.
Thanks for having me.
I was joking earlier. I think I want to call this segment "Guns and Butter."
Fine.
Really,
It's your show.
Can't we? Because sometimes we talk about guns on this segment, but we often talk about food on this segment. And you may have noticed that the food costs are going up.
Yes, and I think it is good. Butter is back in vogue,
It is. And
saturated fat's
and
okay
guns
for you.
never go out of
right,
style.
never go out of style.
Exactly.
Yes, food costs are going up. I wrote about it this morning. It's tough out there for families.
Yeah.
Breakfast staples like orange juice and bacon are going through the roof. Beef.
Tell me about bacon, because I haven't paid for bacon. I mean, I've paid for it, but I've been, paying for it in different ways.
Well, there's a lot of things that are sort of impacting U.S. Prices. One is there's a demand for meat in Asian countries, and when demand goes up, prices go up. So you've got more demand for actual protein and meat. And you also have drought conditions in the U.S., which are really making it very tough on farmers. What I wrote about also is that China recently rejected tons of U.S. corn, a shipment of U.S. corn going into China, because of concerns about genetically modified food. That cost the corn manufacturers millions of dollars, tons of food. So these are the kinds of things that are really, ultimately costing consumers. We're going to see those, these are all like drought conditions and increased demand. These are like big economic sort of concerns, but ultimately it does hit consumers at the grocery store.
It does.
Prices will go up.
And it's interesting because you talk about the GMO labeling laws and what those are going to mean.
Yeah.
$400 per family per year in California because of that state's new laws. And I thought it was really interesting. You quote a foodie blogger.
She's great.
Jenny Schmidt.
Yep. She's in Maryland.
She's a dietitian and a full-time farmer. She has a blog called The Foodie Farmer, talking about these new regulations that farmers are now required to segregate their GMO and non-GMO crops.
Yeah,
or they will
be. They will
right?
be. If people, GMO labeling is often promoted as a right to know issue, and oh gosh, well, you just slap a label on there and then everyone knows what they're eating. But there's several things I have a problem with. First of all, it suggests that GMOs are different nutritionally, or they have a different sort of makeup than non-GMO food. There's nothing different between GMO food and non-GMO, nutritionally speaking. There's no difference. So what's the label for? I mean, if it's no different, what's the label for? And you need to understand that the costs associated with these labels. This foodie farmer blogger was talking about how, everybody uses the same grain silos. All the farmers, they all pull up and they store their grain in these silos. And if these labeling laws go through, they're going to have to.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. You can't commingle. You got to have that now. Non-GMO silos and GMO silos. And what if, for gosh sakes, accidentally someone loads their grain? No, I mean, this is serious stuff.
Know.
If they load their grain, if they accidentally, put their grain, if there's an accident and they put their grain, they could ruin tons of corn if they mingle non-GMO with GMO. They'd have to throw it all away, or they'd have to turn it all into feed, or whatever they'd have to do. Mm-hmm. The point is that this has incredible costs. So some analysis has been done. This would cost the average shopper, average family, $400 more a year. I can't afford that. I cannot afford $400 more in food costs. And so consumers need to understand that a lot of these sort of unnecessary labeling laws are going to hit them in the wallet.
Right. Well, it's one thing when there's a drought. It's one thing when there's a disease and the orange crop is affected.
Right.
And by the way, what are they doing to help with that? They're actually working on a genetic modification that would be blight resistant, right?
I mean, we're looking at the entire U.S. orange industry being destroyed because of this disease. And right now, scientists are trying to find a way to create a new tree, an orange tree, that could resist this. Nothing is working in terms of traditional measures to counteract this blight, this terrible disease on orange trees. So again, scientists are trying to come up with a new form of this tree that can resist this. This is genetic modification. And this is what might save the orange industry. If people are alarmist about GMOs and say, oh gosh, but these trees produce genetically modified oranges, ooh, scary, then we're going to have to say goodbye to the orange industry in America, and that's terrible. Think of all the jobs and all the people who are sustained by the orange industry and the juice industry in America. So these are the considerations. And as you were saying, yes, certain things we can't control: drought, increased meat demands in Asia. Those are things we can't control. But consumers can reject the alarmism about GMOs and say, look, these labeling laws, these labeling requirements are going to increase costs, and we've got enough things that we can't control increasing costs. This is one area where we can control it.
All right, listen, moving on to another topic here. Washington Times reporting the U.S. Department of Agriculture has issued new rules that pretty much, they say, ban schools from offering students the chance to buy any type of junk food at all, even in the vending machines that are on campus but operated by independent companies. The regulations say vending machines are only allowed to sell fruit, dairy products, whole grain foods, lean protein products, or vegetable items that are less than 200 calories for snacks and less than 350 calories for entrees, which, by the way, if we're still on the 2,000 calories a day recommended, and that's for adults, not for growing children, then that means that your entree should be more than 650 calories. Right?
Yeah, but let's talk about this from several angles. The idea that Washington is telling local schools what they can put in their vending machines. I mean, let's just talk about how outrageous it is that Washington, that someone at the USDA sitting at their computers coming up with a list of items that can be loaded into the local schools' vending machines. What is going on? Doesn't Washington have more important things to do? Secondly, I don't really care if a local school wants to tell kids, you can't get Doritos. I hate Dorito breath, okay? You can't have Doritos, you can't have soda pop, you can't have this and that. That's fine, but it should be a local decision. And in fact, before some Washington bureaucrats started getting all involved in this, schools were doing this. They were already changing out the snacks. So, I mean, the reform was happening. Of course, Washington's got to supersede everything. And lastly, I mean, these kinds of rules are so oblivious to the reality that there are gas stations and 7-Eleven convenience stores and grocery stores. Kids still go to these places. They can still get these snacks. I mean, what's the next? Let's take this to the ultimate, solution. Are we going to ban the sale of these things within a certain radius of the school?
Oh, no. Let's take it to its ultimate solution. Are we going to ban the kids from bringing them onto campus?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I've been having this conversation with myself over the past couple of minutes here as we've been talking about this, and I've decided that next year my kids they're going to take their lunch to school, even if I have to pack it every day, and every day they're going to have a little chocolate, they're going to have a little yummy items.
Yeah, good.
They may have on occasion a soda.
Yep.
Right, and it's going to be okay.
It's going to be fine.
And every kid who gets the school lunch is going to be so envious of my children and their delicious food. They might even have bacon on occasion.
Hey, that's good stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's what we have to do as parents. This is it. And you've been saying this for years, that, you as parents have to take control. This is the moment. This is the moment for me, Julie.
I'm so happy.
This is ridiculous. This is stupid.
It is stupid. And honestly, parents do. But this is ultimately why the schools don't even really want you to pack your kid a lunch.
I know.
I mean,
you're
definitely pleasing me, and you're definitely pleasing a lot of small government folks.
Right,
but they don't want you to do that because parents cannot be trusted. Because you know what they might do?
I'm going to give them
They might put a little bit of love in that box.
Tasty cake. It's going to be there.
That's
sorry,
fun.
not sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that there'll be other things that are nutritious and to balance it out, and your children will learn that
fresh fruits,
and
fresh berries, fresh vegetables from the garden. Absolutely, right there.
Right.
Yes, but you know what? My kids.
Yeah.
My kids.
Right. But again,
and I'm raising my kids to make good choices on their own. I'm not raising my kids to have the government make good choices for them.
Right.
That's a weak adult. I'm not raising my kids to be weak. I'm raising my kids to be good, responsible adults who can control their own diet, who are in charge of their own destiny and their own dietary needs.
There is a thriving black market system in schools in America today of kids bringing in food from the outside and giving it away or selling it, or kids are bringing it in.
I'm not saying my kids are going to be a part of that black market, but you know how well my wife bakes. I'm just saying.
Little cottage industry going on. That's excellent. I do know.
If my daughter all of a sudden starts riding a brand new bicycle, everybody's wondering what's going on. How could she afford that on her allowance?
That's right. That's right.
And
Well,
everybody's smearing off the cookie crumbs.
well, that's the thing. I mean, we can the USDA continues to put more and more regulations trying to get this food out of the schools, and they seem to not understand that, again, kids will get it other places. The best thing you can do is be a strong parent and teach your kid about moderation and eating their good stuff and occasionally getting a treat. These are the things, strengthening the role of parents, not having a USDA bureaucrat come in and tell the school district the list of things that can be put in a vending machine.
Amen. Julie Gunlock, thank you so much for coming on the program
Thanks
and
for
helping to
having me.
save the world. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you. Yes, we will see you next week. We will not be in Indianapolis next week at this time.
Okay.
Later in the week.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you. We'll see you then. Julie Gunlock of the Independent Women's Forum. You can find him online at IWF.org and on Twitter at IWF. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thanks.